early on, when I got the diagnosis, I was like 40, whatever, 47, 48. I was shocked at the amount of misinformation that was out there about everything, especially about medication. And I was angry because it was dismissed by people who knew me. Oh, you're successful. It's like, yeah, so is Richard Branson, and he's got it. And so are a lot of people, and they've got it. And you've done all these shows, yeah, and do you know what it's cost? You know, the amount that I haven't got done, and how far behind I am in my taxes, all the rest of it, and all the other stuff. So there was a real anger. I mean, anger is a great motivator, because you know, you then realize you're not alone. Patrick and I both talked about it. I had the diagnosis, he hadn't. Then it becomes practical. So at some point there's this passion, but now it's practical. So who do we go to with this? Discovery Health. Let's go to Global, because I know people there and work with them. So I went in and talked with the fellow I've been dealing with for History Bites, a really terrific guy, and Michael Cott. And Michael said, you know, this is neat. Now, to go into that meeting, I had to have that's where the proposal would have been, right? So what are we going to do? It's going to be 2 comedians. What's the angle going to be? The original title was Attention Deficit Disorder, Hyperactivity Disorder, a Diagnosis, Treatment, and Old Oak Cows. That was the title. And then we went, you know, it's like, funny, but. Now I could have got, no, but it's, you know, it's so clever, and nobody is, and you could give you 1,000 reasons. It's like, yeah, ADD and loving it. And as my wife said to me, well, it's kind of like this is what this is about, is that you could have this and still, can you love it? You can love it. And then as we start to develop, it was like loving it, question mark. And the documentary really comes to the conclusion that you can't love ADD. You can have ADD and love life. Have a life you love, great, but that's, and then here's how you're going to get there. So once we had that, we did up a proposal, and I found a piece of clip art of some guy juggling with 12 trays of martini glasses and spheres, and these, you know, juggling or whatever, balancing act. Had the thing. It's like, that's our opening pictures. We threw that on, explained what we were going to do, who we were going to talk to, and went in.
How long did that process take? If you establish your proposal with
a week, maybe, you know. But it's good to write it and then leave it, and then I showed it around, and my agent looked at it, Ava looked at it, and just kept playing with it.
And you worked with Patrick though, like you guys?
No, I did he's busy with other stuff. He's, you know, mostly acting. So, but I kept bouncing, letting him know where I was at. And then I went in, talked to Michael, and then eventually at Banff actually we were standing chatting, and they said, you know, that ADD, let's just do that. It's like, I love it, right? So we should do that. We've got to do that. It's important. So then it's off to the races, and then okay, let's start with the filing cabinet drawer to keep track of stuff. Who are we calling? Who are the experts? And then the production began.
And at some point you would have had to decide though, do you make it a one-shot special, a series of specials?
Yeah.
Was there a process that you
I think I went in there suggesting 3 hours. The first one would be what it is, the second is the diagnosis, and the third would, and the kind of diagnosis and the costs of it, and the third would be how to beat it. And they went, nice try. We'll give you an hour, which is 42 minutes, right?
So it was probably, there's an economic factor from the production side.
Always, yeah, always going.
Is it now, would it, you went in with a 3-hour pitch, so would you say it's probably better to go in maybe shooting high so that you can get maybe what you want? Or at least
not
get
necessarily.
something?
Well, not necessarily. If it's a good idea, they'll come to the idea. I think the ideas tend to, on their own, tell you how long they're supposed to be. You know, if we're doing a documentary on the quirky world of the World Scrabble Championships, what are you guessing? A 1-hour documentary or a 15-year series? I'm guessing, right? And is it a commercial release, or is it going to go for, you know? So yeah, you know, the material should dictate what you're doing depending on how you and your approach. So, and then economics absolutely is a factor. And this is a tougher sell because it's not a series. It's hard for a broadcaster to make their money on a documentary series, no matter how well-intentioned who's in it. It's not, you know, everybody loves Raymond, is where you're going to make, you get a machine. You got these people that are just producing the characters, and you know what you're doing. And it's just, I mean, Red Green, 15 years, right? Once we had the template, we were off to the races. So then, yeah, and they're giving us a bit of editorial advice, very little. Mostly it was just, you know, we like this, I think you can cover that. Not that interested in some of the external controversy. I'm really interested in focusing on the difference between adult and children. Because we've come, their first reaction was, well, we've done ADD. This is adult ADD. Now that's interesting. We're talking about the fact that you can actually succeed with this, and in some ways, if you manage it, it can become strength.
So did it become, okay, so you get established, you're down to an hour, so you've got your topic, you've got your time frame. So as you begin your production process, now how involved does that become? Is this something you're doing on your own, or are you meeting with the company on a fairly regular basis?
No, we are the company producing it. Okay. So Ava's on the phone and doing the research, and in a morning has lined up 5 of the top experts in the U.S. We couldn't believe it. But the title, I'm in. Because they want their kids that they see, and the adults they see, there's some hope. It's a scary thing to get diagnosed.
Catching the right catchphrase.
That makes a huge difference, yeah, because they got the intention. They explained it's 2 comedians who have this, and the experts know that in show business and amongst comedians, this is like, you know, Robin Williams, I think I know Howie Mandel has others. So anyway, so yeah, and she's working on lining things up, and I'm now, how do we present this? Okay. And I'm laying out I'm like throwing as many ideas as I can into a document. So I'm creating a gigantic script. I'm always about putting everything down.
Now, I know that there are several different types of script writer software, and ones that allow you to basically have sections that you just kind of spew ideas, and then you can extract the ideas into there and begin to flesh them out and how it keeps things correlated. Do you use those kind of software?
No, I should.
Or you just
I use Microsoft Word, and I created my own template, and I learned how to style and format so it goes automatically. Character, dialogue, descriptive, visual, character. So if it's a radio script, I take out the visual because there ain't going to be any change to sound effects and so on. But yeah, there is some good software out there. There's good books up there. There's some really good courses on screenwriting. The John Truby one is really good. I think it's quite good. And yeah, and then it's a matter of throwing ideas down, and we had enough ideas to do 3 months of stuff with Patrick, and it's like, what's the best? What's the point we're trying to make?
It always comes back to what you're doing with the forensics. You create 2 hours of material to pare it down to
absolutely.
half hour.
Yeah.
So do the same thing.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that bring it back to the science fiction in the 50s, how many of the great books are 140 pages, 160, not 600 pages. And they don't describe every room the character walks into in great detail. They're getting to the essentials. So that.
Well, I think part of it was just the technology. When you had to retype your manuscript.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, or you wrote it by hand, you wrote very carefully. Yeah.
I really don't want to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Easier to cut.
Yeah, exactly. So the process, what I think is interesting about television writing, and I think why I've stuck with it, is that once you're writing, you can then move into the directing, because you really do see, you have this mindset of how it's going to look, or you can move into the producing and hand, especially if it's an action series, say, you hand that off to a director. Traders, the other show Patrick did, there were directors who came in who were really focused on, knew all of the lighting, or had lighting people who knew all the lighting, working with them to create the effect of, I want to see Marty here and her here, and when she realizes I don't want Marty, and how are we going to, let's bring the camera, let's go here, let's truck past. So the writer/producer is really what people look for.